Today, I'm going to demonstrate an automation that will extract key information from check copies and then push that extracted data into an ERP system. This automation will mimic the steps of a generic cash application process. I'll be using UiPath's document understanding tool to perform the extraction. We will be processing two checks. One is printed and one is handwritten. For this demo, the handwritten check will get routed to Action Center for a human to validate the extraction, while the printed check will move forward without a human in the loop. Before moving forward, I want to go over some points of emphasis. The starting point for this demo is a network folder that was created for the bot to retrieve the check copies. However, these checks can be retrieved from anywhere, such as an email inbox, an application like OnBase, or a SharePoint site, just to name a few. These checks represent semi-structured documents, which would require a machine learning model to be processed reliably in a production environment. However, for the demo purposes, we treated each as a structured document so that it would only require a single sample to perform the extraction. On the back end of this process, you'll see that the extracted data is pushed into an ERP system called Acme. Acme is a test application that was developed for training purposes, but in this demo, it's meant to represent a generic ERP system. So at this point, I'm going to log into the bot's virtual machine. So this is the set of standard working folders that we've created for this process. This is the 02 input folder, which is also the starting point of this process. So what I'm doing is just copying the check copies into the 02 input folder. This is the handwritten check, which will get routed to Action Center. And this is the printed check, which will skip Action Center. All right, so now that I have the checks in the correct folder, I'll close out of the bot's machine and open up Orchestrator. Just to quickly show you, we do not have any actions in our Action Center. So after I run this, I'll expect to see one action here for the handwritten check. So now I am selecting the process, selecting the bot to run on, and kicking this off. So you can see that the original process which I invoked just invoked two children processes, which represent each one of the checks. This child process represents the printed check because it went straight through to completion, while this child process represents the handwritten check, and it's currently in suspended mode while it waits for me to go into Action Center and validate. So what I'll do is go to Action Center. So you can see this is our action that was created for the handwritten check. I will assign it to myself and go through and validate each one of the fields that the bot extracted. So John Smith looks correct. The date, the handwritten date also looks correct. Check number looks correct. Check amount looks correct. And then looks like it had a little bit of trouble with the payee. So I will just correct the validated or the extraction. Mary Johnson. And then we also did set up a field just to detect whether there was a signature. So that is set up as a Boolean field, and you can see that the bot did detect the signature. So we have completed our only action. Now, if I browse back to the job tray, you can see that the parent job that we originally kicked off and then both of the children jobs have been completed. So now I will log back into the virtual machine of the bot. So you can see the two check copies that were sitting in this folder have been moved to the output folder. And then we also have a corresponding Excel document which contains all of the extracted data. So if we look at the handwritten check, so we can see this is all of the data which we validated in Action Center. So John Smith, the date, the check number, check amount, and then there's a column right next to each field which represents the confidence with which the field was extracted. So in this case, they're all set to 100 because we actually validated the extraction. However, if we did not kick this to Action Center, so we'll see this in the printed check, the confidence will not be set to 100 for all the fields. So now if we open up the printed check, so you can see right off the bat, it looks like it had a little bit of trouble with the payor, which is this field right here. And that is to be expected because we only had one sample to train it on, and that is a unique font. So in a production environment, what we would do is we would train multiple copies of this check, and eventually we could train it to recognize this font. And then you can see the other fields. So we have check date, looks correct. Check number looks correct. Check amount is correct. Similar situation with the payee. It looks like the and sign is getting confused with a G. So again, what we would do is train multiple, we'd create a machine learning model to train it that is not a G. And it looks like the signature is correct. So at this point, what I'm going to do is take this data and then push it into the Acme ERP system. So when I was running this, I was also creating a queue. So 002 DU generic cash receipt. So you can see here, I have two queue items that represent the printed check and the handwritten check. And so what these queue items contain is the file path to the original document, as well as the Excel that contains the extracted data. So what I'll do is kick this off from UiPath Assistant. So you can see the bot logging into the application. Opening up a generic work item and then writing in the fields that were extracted. And now we'll process the handwritten check. And again, this was the check that was validated in Action Center. All right, so we have posted both of the check details into our ERP system. If I go back into Orchestrator, I can see that both of these queue items were processed successfully. And that concludes the cash receipt demo. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us with the information provided. Thanks and have a great day.